And welcome back to the Power Accountability League. I'm your pal, Dan L. This is my channel, and I am searching for clues as to whether I'm related to Kal-El. Today's video is entitled 2008-2020 Coincidence? Question mark. Corruption? Question mark. Conspiracy? Question mark. So we're going to analyze, take a look at 2008-2020, and we're going to say which one best applies to 2008-2020. Conspiracy, corruption, or coincidence? So first, right out of the gate, what have I told you about conspiracy? I realize everyone's a conspiracy nut. People think, well, it's just Alex Jones. No, it's if you're paying attention to all the human beings on planet Earth, most people are conspiracy nuts because the attitude of most people is, well, people are basically good, and when things go bad, it's because of a small sliver of the human race which is involved in a conspiracy. People are like, well, look what happened in Nazi Germany. In fact, there was a movie made in 2001, and it had a lot of A-list actors in it, and it was called Conspiracy, and it was about the Germans formulating a plan to exterminate the final solution to exterminate Jews and all non-Aryans. And they're like, conspiracy? No. I've said it's not a conspiracy. It's people doing what people do. It's people following their base biological programming. We are the ultimate apex super predators, and when we're born, we are programmed to be Jack the Ripper, to be Jeffrey Dahmer, to be Stalin, to be Mao, to be the Castro brothers, to be the Kim family, to be Hitler, to be Mussolini, to be Tojo. We're programmed to be pure evil, the human race. Well, that's a Christian. Hey, I told you I don't hate Christians. Sometimes religion gets something right. Let's not. I don't believe in this idea that everything about religion is a bunch of baloney. When they talk about original sin, and people hate this, by the way, and I understand why they hate it. I do. The co-founder of Greenpeace and people like him hate the idea of original sin, which is people are born to misbehave. We are a misbehaving species. We won't be nice, gentle, thoughtful, caring, intelligent, logical, rational, reasoned, critical thinking skill people. We've decided to all be nut jobs, and we're extremely cruel and sadistic. But that's the bad news. We're born that way. The good news is, through some weird, bizarre twist of evolutionary theory, we reject our hyper-violent selves. We are Jack the Rippers. We're not Jesus Christ. We're not Moses. Human beings are born to be Jack the Ripper, but we reject it. We fight. We spend our entire lives fighting against our negative impulses, our hyper-violent, hyper-cruel, hyper-irrational impulses, which is the good news. And again, to this day, no scientists no one has explained it. The theologians can't explain it. They try. That's why they come up with original sin. And they use their understanding of the supernatural gods and all that kind of stuff. But no one in human history has ever explained why we're the only species on the planet which refuses to follow our programming. And our programming is to do bad things. But we don't want to. We would prefer, not all of us. There's just enough of us that wants to give in to the horrible side of our nature. Not me, probably not you. But there are a few people, and you know who those people tend to be? Super ambitious people. The people with the lust for ambition that's irrational, those are the evil people. They want to give in to the horrible, to the Hitlerian part of their personality. Most of us don't want to, and most of us don't ever do it. But a few of us, and the left has a disproportionate number of evil people because the left has nothing but ambition and control fetishes. That defines every breath they take in life is based on irrational ambition and irrational control, and it's all based on irrational fear. They are so frightened of everything in the universe that they want to own the universe. They want to control Mother Nature and the universe. They talk about being eco-friendly. No, they want to replace Mother Nature as the gods of the universe. Anyway, so no, I don't attribute 2008 to, though I do understand it kind of looks like a conspiracy. Take a look at 2008. Oil prices in less than 12 months double, or at least the gasoline prices double. And at the same time, we've got millions of people who own homes they can't afford. How did that happen? In the 2008, how do we have several million people who own houses? And we're talking, sometimes people bought $600,000 homes that were crappy homes. They weren't even good homes, and they paid $600,000 for them. Because we had a bubble, real estate bubble. How did that happen? Because the Republicans and the Democrats got together and said the banks need to give loans to anyone, a home loan to anyone who wants one. So if you, it doesn't matter if you were poor, middle class, or whatever. If you walked into a bank and said, "I want to own a house," they said, "Sure, we can do that." So what were they called? Subprime mortgages? I don't care what they're called. The point is, the lenders in the USA gave anyone who wanted a loan for a house a loan. So by 2008, you had not only a real estate bubble, you had a lot of people that were living paycheck to paycheck, and if they lost that paycheck, they were going to default on their mortgage. So what happens? We have an economic crisis in 2008. The price of gasoline doubles. That affects the economy. People lose their job by the millions. And now, who's on the hook? Well, what about those lenders? Well, those loans were bundled and sold to corporations and governments. So there were governments that were collapsing. There were corporations that were collapsing. A global economic crisis in 2008. And what did that lead us to? Well, it led us to Barack Obama. He was the Messiah. He wasn't even a human being. He was a demigod. And he told us, he said, I can stop. He actually said, because you elected me, I will stop the oceans from rising. As if that's humanity's job to decide what the level of the ocean. Remember, the oceans have risen and fallen for almost all of the planet's history. For over 1 billion years, the oceans have risen and fallen because it's part of the natural biorhythms. The planet itself is in a constant state of getting warmer and cooler. It does that naturally. The idea that we are the ones who have decided whether the planet gets warmer and cooler. No, we never will be. But anyway, so 2008, we get Obama. Why? Because the political left, they want power. They try and by the way, the oil markets were manipulated. I'm not saying by the left, but certainly by rich people. They were what, oil futures. So the oil markets were manipulated in 2008. So it was an artificial inflation of oil prices, which meant the gas prices were artificially inflated, and the home prices were artificially inflated because of supply and demand, because everyone could get a loan for a house. Didn't matter what your credit rating was. So that's 2008. It feels like a conspiracy, but no. And what about a coincidence? You could again, you can make a little bit of an argument for conspiracy in 2008, and a little bit of an argument for coincidence because of the housing bubble and the bubble in the oil markets. So there was a little bit of a coincidence and a little bit of a conspiracy. But the way you describe 2008 is corruption. When you have systemic corruption in governments and in the private sector, which is markets. So when you have corrupt markets, which we do and we still do, and as far as I can tell, we've always had corrupt markets because again, people are naturally corruptible. So we've always had corrupt markets and we've always had corrupt governments. Always. Again, sorry, bad news. Human race is a bunch of corrupt individuals. But again, it's not all bad because we're not comfortable being corrupt. Most of us. Some of us are. Most of us are not comfortable. Certainly, people who are part of the American Bar Association definitely comfortable with the rigged system. But anyway, so let's go move on to 2020. Same thing. Is it conspiracy, coincidence, or corruption? Well, in 2020, again, you can apply the word conspiracy a little bit to 2020. Time magazine actually put that in the title of an article, the conspiracy to rig the 2020 election, though they phrased it differently. I'm paraphrasing the Time article. They had it different, but they did use the word conspiracy. Um, so the conspiracy to save the 2020 election, which means the conspiracy to rig the 2020 election, and it didn't stop with 2020. January 2021, same thing. So there is an element of conspiracy. What about coincidence? Well, I guess you could say if you believe, and I do, that COVID-19 originates somewhere in China, and it doesn't. We don't know if it was a bioweapons lab or if it was natural. It could have been either one, but it doesn't. For the purposes of this video, it doesn't matter because it had the effect of destroying the West. The Western Hemisphere completely lost its mind and said, "Oh my God, it's so natural for people to die from the flu." But the coincidence factor of 2020 is that we had an election year and a COVID-19 virus at the same time. 2020 was the year of the 2020 election, November 2020 election. So this COVID-19 virus hits us, and by now also it is an interesting coincidence. Well, just as Trump is not being convicted by the Senate of, because remember January 2020, the Senate is trying to figure out if they're going to convict Donald Trump on impeachment and get him out of office, and that doesn't work out the way the Democrats want it to work out. And then, interestingly enough, now we have, after Donald Trump is what I would consider exonerated, but definitely when they failed to convict him, they failed to get him out of office. Now we've got the COVID-19. So that is an interesting coincidence. Of course, it was 4 years of interesting coincidence after coincidence, the way things played out. All these anti-Trump movements, which turned out to be a bunch of baloney. So 2020. So there is an element of conspiracy. There is an element of coincidence. But just like in 2008, the best way to describe 2008 and 2020 is corruption. Ambitious people wanting power. In 2008, it was Obama and the Democrats and the leftists who wanted power. They didn't. They hated George. Remember, George Bush was called Hitler. This thing was, well, we're only going to call Donald, only Trump. No, it wasn't just Trump that was called Hitler. Bush was called Hitler. In fact, they called Reagan, the left has been calling everyone they disagree with Hitler as long as I've been alive. And that's a long time. So, so 2020 and 2008 can best be explained through systemic corruption. Corrupt people, ambitious, corrupt, wealthy people. Most of them already have a certain amount. Most of them are already doing one. Nancy Pelosi's doing great. She's got her $34,000 refrigerator with her $16,000 of chocolate in it. Nancy Pelosi is worth over $100 million. Nancy Pelosi was born into a wealthy, powerful family. Bet you didn't know that. So the point is, the people who want, but that wasn't enough. It's for Mark Cuban, for Soros, for Buffett, for Gates. When in America you can have 50. Take a look at Michael Bloomberg, but worth between 50 and 75. I don't know, worth over $50 billion. It's not enough for Michael. He was mayor of New York. He's one of the richest people to ever live on the planet. It's not enough. That's evil. When you've been mayor and you're worth over $50 billion and you've lived a life of actual privilege. Bloomberg accuses some schmuck who's a middle class guy with a jet ski of having white privilege. Michael Bloomberg has the privilege, not the middle class schmuck who has a snowmobile or jet ski. That's not the person with privilege. It's the Bloombergs. And you know what? It's not enough for Bloomberg, Zuckerberg, Gates, Jeff Bezos. I guess he's the richest person on the planet. No matter how much money and power you give them, it's never enough. That's one way to know they're evil. Whenever someone has identified themselves as never having enough power or money or good fortune or living a charmed life isn't good enough for them, that's evil. That's evil. So, so yeah, so 2008 and 2020, those are sister years, twin sister years. 2008, the evil people on the planet want their power back because they think that because Bush, even though he's part of the globalists, he just has just enough difference from the super hyper evil globalists that him and his party has to go bye bye, and we have to install the ultimate in corruption, the Democrat Party. Same thing in 2020. And it's not a coincidence that 2008 and 2020 look very similar and had similar results. You put in uber leftists in the White House, and it's not. And again, it's not even. And even though they themselves, the left, claims it was a conspiracy, it's again. And I wish it was as simple as a conspiracy. That's not even the best way. The real reason why 2008 and 2020 look so similar isn't best explained by conspiracy or coincidence. It's best explained by systemic corruption. And if you want to relabel that conspiracy, go ahead and do it. But I've told you, it's easy for me to believe that people are corruptible, easily corruptible. So you have systemic corruption. And that's why 2008 and 2020 are, again, they're like twin sisters. They look so similar to each other, and they have similar outcomes because evil never rests, and we've got and Donald Trump, his election was good because he at least admitted we have a swampy, corrupt society in Washington D.C., and he tried to fight against it. And what was the result? They're fighting back. Remember the Empire Strikes Back, 1980 Star Wars? That's what happened in 2008 and 2020. The Empire struck back. Anyway. struck stroke back. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. You have a good day. Take care. Bye bye.